All right, episode 5, Center Court with Coach Dakota Webb. Chopping it up with my guys Luke Cooper and Gunnar Person. Could you guys do the audience a favor? Let's assume they don't have a clue who you are.
Fair assumption.
Fair assumption. Luke, I'll start with you, and then Gunnar, you can.
Let me go first. Let me go first.
You want to go first?
Yeah, it's almost like whenever you go to a coach's clinic and you have someone go before you who just absolutely killed it, and
like
then you're like,
sandwiching me
okay,
between
how
two
do I
college
follow
coaches.
that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a skills coach, kind of along the same path as you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a high school coach as well.
Right.
I'm a JV and head assistant coach at Harrisonville, Missouri. But yeah, I mean, that's what I do. I'm in the Kansas City metro area. And I mean, once I hand it off to Luke, I mean, he'll be able to cover it a little bit more, but whenever he's out of the area,
Right.
I tend to try to do my best to hold it down and build the basketball community in that area.
Yeah.
So,
Of course.
Yeah, so I'm I'm from Kansas City. I'm actually from Harrisonville, so the school that Gunnar coaches at now. And I kind of have a weird schedule, so I essentially split my schedule between Kansas City for 6 months, kind of in the fall and the winter, and then LA for 6 months, kind of in the summer.
Right.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into some other stuff.
We probably got a little bit more
Yeah.
in there. So obviously, I mean, you started in the same realm where we're kind of heavy right now. A lot of youth, a lot of high school. And I know you still work with youth in high school, but it's a transition now, right? It's probably like part of the year, not as much.
Right.
Spring and summer, NBA offseason, you're doing more of those workouts, right? So I would like to speak to that for you. Kind of like just what the offseason looks like in your current state, and then we can always run it back to the high school stuff afterwards.
Yeah, so around April is kind of when things start to get serious for the off-season stuff, because that's pretty much when, so the way the NBA draft works is, for a lot of guys anyway, as soon as they lose in the NCAA tournament,
Yeah.
most of them that know that they're done. So like, there's obviously the guys that are kind of test the waters, but the guys who are like, I'm leaving, pretty much leave school, and they essentially start training for pre-draft as soon as possible.
Right.
So that can start as soon as the beginning of April, and then all the way April, May, June is pretty much pre-draft stuff. Depending on NBA schedules, depending on when players lose. So like, obviously, if you have a guy for the Warriors who plays till July every year, he's not doing anything till later on in the summer. But say you have a couple guys that miss the playoffs, they'll start in May, pick up heavy in June, and then that goes all the way through until about September 1st, which is when players have to report to training camp. So April through September is pretty much chaotic. Players coming and going every week and stuff like that.
Right, and that's obviously like they still have some sort of like family time built in there.
100%.
Other trips they're doing, or maybe they have an endorsement deal where they got this obligation or whatever. So you have to juggle that as well, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But,
so I mean, they're good. They're good about taking time. They're also good about working. So what a lot of them do, especially early on, is they'll work out for a week, vacation for a week, work out for a week hard, vacation for a week hard. Just because an 82 game season is grueling in itself.
Right.
And then you don't want to work out for 4 straight months, because you think like, you lose, and say you start training in May. So you have May, June, July, August. Like, that's 4 months. That's a long time to train. And it's not like, some of the stuff we do, if we have academies, it's like we'll see people 2 times a week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a lot for a high school kid.
And
Maybe 3
these guys
times.
are looking at sometimes 2 times a day.
You're looking at like 8 to 10 workouts a week.
Yeah.
And so it's unsustainable, and it's not good for them to do that for 4 straight months.
No.
So a lot of them will hit it, for a week on, week off, for the first 6, 7, 8 weeks, go to their vacation, do their family time, and then kind of that last, halfway through July and all of August is when players kind of lock in for that last like 6 months or 6 weeks.
Right. Gunnar, I know you and I both, you more than me, been in the gym when Luke's doing his thing and working his guys. Based on like the context you have with his workouts or what you've seen with Drew or any of these other guys at that level, where do you personally see the overlap between, like, obviously an NBA player and a high school player, two very different things, right? Or even the college player that's sandwiched in between there, depending on what level of college, all the way down to that, like, 10, 11, 12-year-old. There's a lot of different levels of this. But how do you think we trickle that down to those levels and take that context and help out those kids?
So I think the biggest thing with that, and what I've been able to watch with Luke, and although I'm a little bit older than he is, in a way has been like mentoring and been a good way for me to like see how to attack those younger age groups, but also make it seem like they're not working on things that are like, okay, you guys are at a beginner level,
of course.
Because kids can notice that, like, they pay attention to that stuff. They're a lot more observant than I think people realize. But I think that's one thing that's important alone in itself, is I think that you have to portray it, or at least present it in a way to them that it's like, this is really important. And if you can prove to them that, like, people at the higher levels do the same stuff, then I think that motivates them to do it even more.
Of course.
And so I think that something that I've taken into consideration, that I've learned, or that I've even noticed in my own time of studying things, is like, I think that it's more than just motivation. I think that it's like an interest. It has to be something that interests them to help them want to, put in that work. So you have to, whether it's pulling one or two kids out from a bigger workout and saying like, okay, what is it that, like, what don't you understand? Because obviously we know that like, kids are scared to ask questions. Right. And so if we can get them to, like, pull them aside and just attack the fact that it's like, we have to put it in a way that they can understand, like, this is why you have to do it. Yeah. Sometimes it's challenging, especially whenever, like, as an example, we were talking about last night over the summer, we had our Elite 24 Academy in Overland Park, and we had 2 baskets we're working with anywhere from, 25 to 30 kids showing up to workouts, and so sometimes that's hard to manage, being a 5th grader through an 8th grader. Yeah.
Because that 5th and 6th range is very different from that 7th and 8th.
Right.
I've come across that as well, like mixing those grades.
Yeah, but I think that it's helped me being a teacher in the long run too, because I have to work on differentiating between students that need that enrichment and students that necessarily need a little bit less or more instruction, just less detail, I guess, in a way, so it's not as particular. And so it would kind of be beneficial if we had more baskets, but you find ways to maneuver that and work around it.
And I think the key there is, like you mentioned a couple times, that you find a way. Right. I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. Like, we still have to find a way to get some value from that time. Yeah. And you mentioned, like, and I'll paraphrase, but basically a lot of what you were talking about to me was being empathetic to the context, being empathetic to the human being. Right. Right. So it's like each and every player we train, kind of putting ourselves in their shoes as to what's going to get them to buy in, because at the end of the day, if they don't have that buy-in, then what we're saying is just falling on deaf ears, and they're there because mom and dad want them to be. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or maybe they like basketball, and so it's a good time, but are they really truly getting what they could out of it? How do you think, so, like, kind of running it back to when you started doing this, right? And, what was the first year you did training? I can't remember exactly.
So I did my first camp when I was a sophomore in high school.
What year was that? I can't remember when you graduated, bro.
2012.
Okay. So I would have started winter of 2013, I believe, right? And so, and that was when I was out in Colorado. But I'm curious, from then until the moment that you went out to LA and kind of went heavy into the NBA side of it, obviously that's a lot of workouts. It's a lot of different groups, a lot of different individuals at that youth and high school level. How did things change for you in the way that you approached that? Does that make any sense? Like, where did you see? Where did you see? Yeah, and I'm kind of curious in, like, not where you saw growth in, like, business and numbers, but where you saw growth in how you maybe articulated and communicated these workouts, or maybe how you structured things, or maybe the things you decided to focus on. Even he was saying, prioritizing basically what we do.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think really early on, Drew's always been kind of a mentor, Drew
course.
Hanlon.
Yeah.
And so I think really early on, I was basically copying what he did.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to copy and paste from his workouts into my workouts. And obviously, when he's got Brad Beal and I don't know, I was going to say some name, but not Brad Beal, the fourth grade version of Brad Beal. It's probably not good for him to do a tight wrap ball screen. You know what I mean? It's unrealistic.
Probably not contextual.
Yeah. So honestly, that was a hard thing for me to navigate at first.
Right.
And then you start to realize, okay, here's the clients I have. I understand the higher level parts of this.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do these kids any good to show them that because they don't even know how to shoot a left-hand layup or to do a crossover or anything like that. And it was a struggle, though. Mentally it was a struggle for me, and it was one of the reasons that I wanted to try the LA thing out and to go all in was because, like you, I spent so much time studying the game at like the highest level, NBA.
Right. Yeah.
In college, like so much time looking at all that stuff, and it's like you have all that knowledge, but you're doing the players that you're working with in middle school and high school sometimes a disservice if you actually try to show them all that stuff.
Yeah, you're not actually helping.
You're not helping them. You're just sufficing your own ego.
Exactly.
And so the move was a big part of me, but all right, let's see if I can like put this knowledge to work and let me be around different people and different players and coaches that are, at the highest of whatever, and hopefully help up my game, in return. So.
Right. So in some ways it's kind of scratching that itch and trying something that you're very interested in seeing what it looks like instead of just studying it.
Yeah, I really my goal is I want egotistically, I want people to be like, yo, that's one of the best basketball minds that I know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I have that very similar goal.
And I think that that's something that you should probably, I don't know if you should want to have it, but I think some people have it just because they want to, you put so much time into something. Yeah. You want to be good at it.
Yeah. I think ironically, I was parented in such a way that I'm so grateful for, and that, I could get a little high on my own supply at times, and my parents really tried to give me a little more humility and help me be a little bit more empathetic in those things. But I wonder if at times, lately, I've been trying to, hedge that with also, it's healthy, it's okay to want to push ourselves and to want to, we all have different goals. It's not like we all need to do the same thing.
No, I think to piggyback on that, I will say I am every single day grateful for my parents. Yeah. My dad, it doesn't matter who's in the room, he's going to think that I'm the best at whatever we're doing. Yeah. And I remember times telling him yo, Dad, it's not true. I'm not that good at, whatever the case may be.
We got to chill.
And it was always came from they raised me to be a great person, right? And treat people the right way and all that. But it was also the confidence to believe in yourself and to be willing to take risk. Okay. And I think that as a parent, I think that's huge for your kids. Yeah. My mom was a teacher, so it didn't necessarily come from her. Not that teachers can't, but that's just her whole family was teachers. So that's all she knew. Yeah. My dad came from more of a business side of things, and I'm super grateful for that because I think it helped me be all right, you know what? If it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I think that's where a lot of people get, scared. It's even doing this podcast. Right. Putting yourself out there. I'm doing a podcast. Oh, yeah. People are Dakota Webb, you're doing a podcast. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
4 listeners.
All right, then.
But it's just, it's the confidence to be listen,
Exactly.
Anyone, I sent this to Matt Pugh the other day.
Shout out Matt Pugh.
Yeah, shout out to Matt Pugh. He's awesome. Another sales coach for Pure Sweat. Because he was talking about, he was scared to put out they're not scared, but like this piece of content. And he's like, I don't know what the backlash will be and all this. And I was like, bro, honestly, no one really cares in the end.
Yeah, truthfully.
And the people that do care and do say something
Are gonna
didn't
take
want you to
something.
win anyway.
Yeah. So nothing
So it
really
doesn't-
changes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the only people that really care
Mhm.
are either people that really like you or
Right.
really hate you. And the
Yeah.
people that really like you are gonna support you. People that hate you are gonna say stuff, but like they weren't supporting you anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. It's inconsequential.
So I think that's just super important for everyone, and just to kind of to be willing to be like, all right, I want to push myself to be maybe the best I can be. It doesn't mean you have to. Coach Neff's a high school basketball coach.
Yeah.
Now he coaches MoCan, and they won Peach Jam. So like,
Yeah.
put it in the context. But I think he's one of the best basketball minds I've
Yeah.
ever been around.
Well, he was talking, for those listening or those watching, we've been doing a coaches clinic the last couple of days, and Coach Neff was mentioning last night that as far as his high school job goes, during the year he makes $5,500 for
Yeah.
his coaching stipend, right? And I was talking to a local high school coach that makes comparable to that at one of our better local 5As down here, and that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's kind of like you were talking about in our own way. Like that's not how we measure what the impact is that we're doing. You know what I mean? Like you can still have a crazy impact, and I think sometimes we get caught up in that whenever it comes to other industries. It feels like amongst coaches though, like it's pretty, unless you end up at that 1%, like every other industry, it's pretty well accepted that we're probably not getting rich
Yeah.
training in YMCA's
Yeah.
on the south side of town. You know what I mean?
I think that's what separates us from a lot of other people, especially within the business that we're in. And I put something on my Instagram story yesterday morning, actually, because they were talking about how, like, if some people do it for the wrong reasons. And it's like we find riches in what we're doing other than just the tangibles, that stuff. We find riches in, like, seeing that it might be helping a kid in general, or whether it's like a parent that we know that has a kid and we do workouts for them for free, or something like that. It's not like it's necessarily a favor, but a lot of times I feel like we're not doing it out of the goodness of our heart, but we're doing it because we find like, I don't know, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but we find like at least a little bit of happiness in doing it, whether there's a price tag on it or not.
Yeah, I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking about my talk later today.
Yeah.
Like, we're so lucky.
We really are.
Yeah.
Like, we're so lucky. We teach basketball with really no consequences.
I was thinking about that yesterday, like watching all these coaches and they're like coaching programs and having to talk about administration and teaching jobs and recruiting or whatever it is and I'm like thinking to myself, like, how blessed are we that we're just all in on basketball and
All in
somehow
on
able
basketball,
to
dude.
figure that out.
And
And
we're
I know
just-
you're not in that same boat right now, but you also are.
Right.
Like, you're in it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I interrupted you, but
Yeah,
I'm good
it's
at
super
that.
disrespectful. No, it's just crazy,
Yeah.
Like, but I think it's a good lesson to people listening. It's just there's always like another way to make it happen. And so I remember you talking yesterday. I really liked it. You were like, my failures as a player led me to be a coach earlier. And I think, in 2019, it's like there's so many different ways to get involved in the stuff you like.
Of course.
Everyone wants to be a player, and it's like, that's awesome. But that's no matter who you are, the ball stops bouncing at some point.
Exactly.
And I agree with what you said. Like, the ball stopped bouncing for me way earlier than I thought it would for different reasons. And at the time, it was the worst possible thing in my head.
Right.
Now it's my biggest blessing.
Yeah. You have that head start in a lot of ways.
100%. It's like we're just to be, trainers, skills coaches, players, whatever you want to label it. It's, we're in my opinion, one of the luckiest people in the world for what we do.
Well, especially if, like, if you're lucky enough to have some success or be somewhat good at what you love, like, that's something I'm going to squeeze the absolute crap out of,
Yeah.
right? And just like try to not take it for granted. And part of what I was talking about yesterday too, I was, speaking to one of the college coaches that was there after my session. He was talking to me about it, and I firmly believe that. And it took me years to get to this point. It didn't happen like that, but I firmly believe that the coach I am today, or the person I am today, is obviously going to be different if I didn't face those adversities. And the simple fact that I got to where I wanted to, like I wanted to be a college basketball player more than anything. Like basketball was my identity, and then I failed. You know what I mean? And I had to own that. At first, I tried to blame other people, and then within 2-3 years, I'm like, shoot, man, that's my fault. Yeah. I'm coaching kids every day, and turns out I wasn't doing the things that I'm coaching, which then I had to take a look at myself and how do I be the best coach I can be? And how do you think, because this is just something I get caught up on a lot and I think about, with your personal journey as a human being, right? And whether it's your past, your present, whatever, how has that affected how you coach or how you approach working with players, or even how you teach? You're in the school.
So my personal background with that whole thing is I went to 3 different high schools growing up.
Yeah.
So I was surrounded by a diverse amount of people, and I always tried to take basketball with me wherever I went.
Right.
Although I ended up going to a new school my senior year. I ended up going to Nixa. That's whenever I moved down here for my senior year. Basketball culture, that's the biggest basketball cultured school I'd ever been around.
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily engaging because being a new kid at a senior year, not ideal by any means, but since I lived in Willard a few years prior to that, I knew of a couple of guys that were on the basketball team.
Right.
And so I was still able to talk to them at school and kind of, at least talk in a way that was about basketball. It wasn't much outside of basketball, But that's one way that I think that has led me to wanting to teach the game, because it's just the diversity. And that's something that I've mentioned to quite a few coaches. And I wish more coaches would do that as well. As at the coaches clinic, you said that this morning, is coaches don't ask questions.
No.
It's almost like a hypocritical type of thing where coaches are always if you don't know, ask a question. Yeah. And whenever you go to a coaches clinic, a lot of times some coaches won't ask a question, even though in the back of their mind they're still I don't know.
Why do you think that is?
I think that my thing is I think that basketball is a universal language. If you know the game, then you're gonna you can talk to anyone whenever it comes to basketball.
Right.
But I also think that it boils down to a point of thinking, I don't want that person to think that I'm dumb. I don't know that.
Right.
And so if I ask someone that might have the answer, I don't want to be the guy that's trying to absorb more when the guy next to me is this guy didn't know that.
We're far too concerned with what others think of our expertise.
Right.
Right. And I think it's what I was talking about yesterday is, and I definitely not perfect, but one of my goals is to not have that fear. Right? Embrace the faith, the family, the failures, but not have fear. And that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
I definitely have my moments of doubt, right? But and I'm sure you did as well, right? Just taking a jump from training in your backyard, training high school kids.
I had doubts driving here this morning. Why the hell am I doing it at 7:30?
But I think that's healthy, right?
Yeah.
None of us are superhuman, and we don't deal with those same struggles.
Yeah.
But it's just how we maybe address them or ignore them at times, right?
I used to be super scared of flying.
Really?
Yeah. 4 or 5 years ago, I had a really, really bad flight.
Man.
And for a while, I was dude, I'm never getting on an airplane again. It's traumatic. You know what I mean? And that was, I wasn't flying that much back then. And then I remember having a convo with myself, and I was all right, what I want to do, I can't say I want to travel the world teaching basketball and then not want to get on a plane.
It's hard to drive
I'm
around.
going to have a tour bus. And so I had a conversation. It was like, all right, like I'm not going to live life scared like that, you know? And so it's a silly example,
right.
But now, you know, I fly once, twice, 3 times a week, you know, I'm all over with some things. And so I still hate it. But it's
for
like
different reasons, I'm sure.
Yeah. But, you know, some things you just kind of got to get over and just do it.
Shout out Spirit Airlines.
Yeah, Spirit Airlines.
Also, I wanted to add something to that. I actually heard this the other day. Well, I didn't hear it, but I'm in a group chat with some of my Hannibal buddies that I keep in contact with, and one of my buddies actually sent into the group. He said, "Hey, I'm listening to this book, and they mentioned that you have a 1 in 11 million chance being in a plane crash, and you have a 1 in 88,000 chance in
knocking on wood,
and dating a supermodel." So he was like, "I guess I need to get to sending 88,000 DMs or something to find a supermodel." So
I'm halfway there, and I'm over 44,000. Turns out Instagram blocks you after a while. No, I think it's true. I think it's just like we were talking about earlier with doing the podcast and anything like that. I think the stuff that scares you is probably the stuff that you should do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the stuff that you keep thinking about. You know, it's like there's multiple times where I haven't done stuff where I felt myself just be a little scared to do it, especially early on, and then I still regret it.
Yeah.
You know, so most of the time, the stuff that kind of scares you and worries you, especially, you know, in business or in life or whatever, is probably the stuff that you should at least give it a chance.
Well, that's kind of like a personal point of pride for me at times, and also a daily reminder. You know, because I think to myself at the moments that I like took that leap, or like I pulled out the safety net, and then still sometime today I'm gonna be thinking to myself, who the heck do I think I am? Like, am I really trying to pull this off? And I'm gonna have to remind myself, yeah, like you pulled that safety net, you've done really well, or you've managed. You know what I mean? We haven't gone up in flames quite yet, so let's keep pushing forward.
No, you're killing it, man. I legitimately doubt myself 16 times a day. Yeah. And it's like, I wish I could be the guy that sits up here. Yeah. And part of it's my personality. People think I'm just ultra confident because I'm sarcastic. I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. But I wish I could be the guy. I was like, I know I'm gonna win. Yeah. You know, I don't have any. It's like, dude, every day I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What did I do? Like, why did I give up? You know, what we built in Kansas City. To go chase something, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like every single day, but it's one of those things where I think I can live with the results in 3 years if it didn't work out. Yeah. I'm not sure I would be super happy with myself 3 years down the line if I didn't try, though.
Yeah, I mean, and the flip side of that, you don't know the alternative anyway. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is at a certain point. What do you guys think is the dumbest thing you've done as a coach this year?
7:30 podcast.
7:30 podcast. Top 5.
Dumbest thing I've done as a coach.
I know. It makes me think, right? But I think it's... I don't know that it's like a bad thing to consider because we should be auditing what we do, right? And so I think as long as it's not a point of like over judging ourselves or beating ourselves up, because like I said, we never know, and you have to try things. And I was saying this at the clinic yesterday is, you know, sometimes, and I'm stealing this directly from Drew, you know, sometimes that thing leads to the thing, right? And so you're like, shoot, that was stupid, or that was a waste of time, or man, that wasn't it, but it got your gears turning, or it got you seeing something else. And so
I can't necessarily pinpoint like, you know, you're an idiot,
right? You
know, for whatever. But there's definitely, you know, plethora of times where that didn't work. You know, I think I just don't. I didn't at the time consider it like a huge loss, like you're saying. So I guess it
it's
doesn't
it's not
doesn't
crippling.
register as
And I
how
think maybe the
stupid.
way we look at that,
Yeah.
probably like the question's a little more harsh.
No, but it's a good question though. I think that's a
um,
good question for everyone in general though.
Right. Like for me, I'm wondering if, I need to lean heavier into, like I've leaned so hard into making sure I'm doing what teams need and what coaches need of their players. But I also lately have been trying to hedge that with challenging the individual in a way that is interesting, like you said earlier, right? And not just, sometimes I worry that I get too stagnant. Yeah. I try to change the shell or the way we work on it, but in a lot of ways I continue working on the same skills because I just think we need to do the things often.
Them. Yeah, you need them.
And so sometimes it's a point of guilt that I shouldn't have because you need those skills. But I also think that maybe I need to continue to challenge myself to be more creative, right? And I know that's kind of a cliche answer.
No,
right?
I think it's true.
I know one thing, like specific, I can pinpoint. So first of all, my buddy Spencer Reeves, real good friend, played at UCM. He after he graduated and before he went over to Spain, he had a lot of free time, so he was spending a lot of time like just traveling all over the place. And his younger brother transferred from Wichita State to Oklahoma, so he's at OU right now. Redshirted last year, will be playing this coming year finally. But Spencer was going to Norman, and Spencer was like, dude, you should come to Norman. Like, you can work out with me, like get in the gym with Austin, try and get a couple other OU guys there.
Right.
I was like, I mean, I don't really want to, you know. My car at the time was a piece of junk. The plates were expired.
Is this the same car you didn't want to drive to Chicago?
Yes. It was around the same time period. It was like shortly before that. And
convenient, right?
And so I was like, I'm not paying for a plane ticket.
Yeah.
I was like, train doesn't go there. I have to take like 3 different trains if I want to do that. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to hop on a bus. I'm going to pay for a bus ticket.
What?
And so I took I did. I took a bus, and here's what sucked. So, dude,
The
relax.
whole thing sucked.
Relax. So, I don't want to take too long with this story because it's a really long story.
I'll go with this.
But
I need more.
The bus left from the Amtrak station in Warrensburg. I get on there at like 6 o'clock. We take the bus from Warrensburg to Kansas City, right there on like Paola, or not Paola. What's that called? What's the name of that? Like, it used to be it is Martin Luther King Drive now, but they changed the name to it. You know KC, you're the KC guy.
Dude,
like,
I can't get to my house without pulling up the
anyway,
I don't care where I'm at.
this was it was a little bit of a rough spot where the bus station's located there.
Yeah.
Truth.
And yes, that's what it was. Yeah. And so I was hanging out there for the next bus didn't leave until like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So I was supposed to sit there at this bus station for a few hours. So I was like, I'm not doing this. Had a friend who was at UMKC dental school, so I hung out with them for a little while and then went back to the bus station. The bus is 45 minutes late. So we get on the bus at about midnight.
Sounds about right.
Hop on the bus. We get to like Raytown, and the bus dies. And we pull over. And
Please tell me at that point you Ubered home.
No.
Okay.
It took about 2.5 hours for a new bus to come out pick us up. They had to take us back to the bus station to make sure that everything was okay with the new bus we're going on, and then took that bus to Oklahoma. And by the time we got to, I didn't even make it all the way to Norman.
Yeah.
I made it to Oklahoma City, and I told Spencer, I said, dude, you've got to come pick me up. Like, I cannot be on this bus anymore. And he drove an extra hour to come pick me up and take me there. And then after that, everything was cool because he just drove me to Warrensburg after.
He frames this like it's like some awful story, but to me, like it's like the Odyssey. You know what I mean? Like,
No, it's
it was terrible. Like, that situation alone, that is the single-handed like worst thing that I did. worst experience I had been through, like the chance to take as a skills coach or a coach in general. But I was at least able to. There were 3 guys there that I was able to work with that are like I still talk to this day. So that was the good thing I got out of it.
I got 3 things from that. All right, number 1, I respect the fact that like you went, because I thought you were going to go the route of I didn't go, I regret it.
Right.
And I did that before. There was George Niang and Matt Thomas. They're both in the NBA now. Both play for Iowa State.
Probably a solid.
Yeah, I folded on that workout when I was in college. I just got done with workouts. It was like 2 hours away, and I was like, I can't make it. We never worked out. Like we still talk or whatever. Would something have came from it? Who knows? Probably not. But I still think about that. I'm like, yo, I'm never doing that again. Like, there's an opportunity. I have to do it. Because you never know what's going to happen. So I respect that. Don't respect the bus play.
Me neither.
I've taken the Amtrak.
It's a bold move.
Yeah, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Shocker did not pay off. I've taken the Amtrak from Kansas City to Chicago a couple times.
Yeah.
The craziest thing about that is it's like $65.
Okay.
Right? So, I'll fly Spirit Airlines. I don't care. Like, I'll sit on the train for 8 hours, Wi-Fi. There's people on that thing from, like, the people behind me, I was talking to them. They're like, yeah, we're going to LA.
Like 19 hours.
That's like 2 days, bro.
Yeah.
I looked up the ticket. The ticket's like $150. You can get a plane ticket to LA for like $70 if you book it in time. And you're going to sell the Amtrak?
It's just like for the experience.
And then last thing I'll say, and I learned this, and it's coming from a place of privilege too. But like there was one time in college, I was working a tournament, like a basketball tournament. It was in Lawrence, Kansas, and that's like an hour away from Kansas City.
Right.
Me and my buddy were working it, and the people that were working it said, hey, listen, we got $50 for a hotel. We'll split the hotel with you guys if you want to stay the night. You have to be there at 6:30 in the morning, 7 in the morning. So, we're in college, and we're thinking $50. We're not going to split anything. We're taking all that 50 and buying the cheapest hotel room.
Right.
Terrible play. I remember that day, like, all right, it was worth the extra $60.
Yeah.
What did you get out of that?
What did I get out of working the tournament?
No, what did you get out of that, choosing that hotel so that it was not necessarily free? Because you told me this story the other day.
So we went, and it was so bad. We went to Target and bought like all new blankets to sleep on. So we ended up spending like the normal.
Roughly spending
100%. But now the way I look at things is like, I bet when you were on that bus, you were like, dude, that plane ticket would have been worth it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But again, that's the place of privilege of like being able to like to do whatever. But dude, travel stories like that stuff is terrible. There's nothing you can do about it.
Well, and that's the side. So whenever guys see Drew or see Alex or see yourself, DJ Sackman, any of these folks, right? And now in your own way, you're working with Langston and Shaq and Frank and some of these others. They see that, right? They see like the post, like, oh man, that'd be the life. And in a lot of ways, it is, right?
Yeah.
It's what we love to do, or it's what I say we, the collective we. I don't train NBA players, but it's it's what we love to do, though. You know what I mean? So like in a lot of ways, that's the life. But it's not all rebounding for NBA millionaires. There's a lot of crap. Right?
Dude, there's a ton of crap.
Yeah.
Social media sucks. Social media is trash. Like, everyone's out there like, I'm like, wheels up to so-and-so. You know what I mean? Like, pretending like I'm dope.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And meanwhile, you're sitting next to somebody that farted like 3 times over the course of the flight.
No. But traveling, like, it's like anything else, man. Like, I want to it's a whole nother tangent, but like, I'm trying to figure out the best way for me to get off social media, but still have a presence for business. And it's tough, but like, I'm just making excuses.
I hear what you're saying.
It's not that hard. It's
crossed my mind. It's like, man, like, it's word of mouth and just texting and connections.
But really, dude, you can get, even if I was on for an hour a day,
and
it was like posting, commenting, involved or whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's the problem when I'm sitting here and I just want to look at my phone and go to Instagram.
And honestly, what I'm proud of is I turned off all my notifications. So like,
I tried that.
shout out to those who try to DM me, and I take 6 hours to get back to you.
So
I only have one. I have Twitter notifications on only because of that's the one that has the most coaches like interacting on.
And you can kind of control your
Yeah.
feed a little bit.
you know, I tried.
I've
doing
also unfollowed just a ton of people.
that.
Like, I just refuse to see negativity.
We talked about that on the car ride up here, and that's kind of unfortunately what a lot of it is.
Mm-hmm.
I tried the notifications thing, but then I would be like, well, I don't know if anyone hit me up. So then I ended up checking it more.
What did I miss?
Yeah. And it was like a little dopamine hit. If someone did, you didn't know it. And I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like anything else. Everyone thinks that it's all glamorous. And,
See, I'm married. Nobody's
yeah.
hitting me up.
Yeah,
so.
no hit me up regardless. However,
Wild statement.
yeah, true statement. I remember talking to you when you went to LA last year about like training NBA guys and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Not sure where this is going. I'm nervous.
no. But I'm saying it's completely, it's
Yeah.
back on like the social media thing. It's not as glamorous as it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, sometimes the grass isn't always greener.
That's fair.
And you know, so it's just, you know, I think everyone, I want to train NBA players. I want to do this. It's like, why?
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, my why was because I wanted to challenge myself and, you know, do whatever. But, like, for other guys, that's not, like, they just want to do it to post about it or whatever. It's like, no, dude, you're really good at training middle school and high school players.
Just love it.
Just
yeah.
do that, kill it, provide for your family, and just be great at that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm a better trainer than you guys because I have 3.5 NBA guys. You know what I mean? But it's like, I'm serious.
No,
it's,
I hear you.
it's not like, but on social media, like, it's like, who do you train? It's like, well, you're not really training them. They're already good.
It's my least favorite question.
You know?
I've started getting to the point when, like, I do Instagram stickers or something, like the stories, and people ask that. I'm like, it genuinely doesn't matter who I train. All that matters is the coach I am today, not who I happen to be blessed to work with yesterday.
I will tell you this, though, and we all know, I mean, we clearly know this, but Luke, I can tell on your behalf, I genuinely don't think that there's like, I think that you have this area down here locked down, like from my personal perspective.
Right.
When you break everything down, I don't think that anyone like stands a chance, and I think that in the long run, you're going to end up like holding it down here. Now, when it comes down to the KC metro area, because everyone and their mother wants to be a basketball trainer nowadays.
I mean, we got like 1,000 down here, so I can't imagine.
But what I'm getting to is like, you know, you're doing good whenever you have a lot of people trying to talk down on what you're doing, or at least trying to find at least a little thing in what you're doing and trying to point it out as like, as if it's a flaw, you know? I mean, obviously, I'm not going to name drop anybody, but there's always going to be like with you in the past 12 to 18 months, your stuff has, I mean, on social media, you've gotten a lot of like growth, I think, looking from the outside in. And I think with growth in that sense comes growth in haters, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, as with anything. And I think at the end of the day, and we talk about this a lot, like those who are in your circle and truly know you, like those are the opinions we should be mindful of.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're the ones who have the context, right? For me, like truthfully, I have ambitions and I think they're healthy. Like I've really thought about this over a few years now. It's like what you were saying, why do I want to do that? Is it just so it looks cool? Is it just so people think I'm somebody? And I'm coming to the conclusion that I almost have a reluctancy to post about the players I work with or to brag or to quote unquote look like I'm taking credit. And I think that if nothing else, I think that's indicative to me that I'm doing it for hopefully the right reasons. Yeah. And then I think at the end of the day, if you're doing it for the right reasons, if you have pure intentions, then it just comes down to execution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what I respect the most about you two as well, is like each in our own way or our own like journey, we're trying to do that and trying to think bigger than the next player or bigger than the next check. You know what I mean? Or bigger than this threshold of followers. Now I'm that dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One thing that I think about a lot is I want to make it or not make it, I guess, by being myself.
Mm-hmm.
And myself is stupid at times and sarcastic, all that stuff. But that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't want to mold myself into what sometimes I think maybe should be what I could be to maybe get more of this, that, or the other. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because then if you change yourself just to get something, I'm not saying change, like you want to evolve and get better.
Mm-hmm.
But if you change yourself just to get something and then you get it, well then it's not really like you're not
no
the
fulfillment.
You know what I mean? There's no fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's like I would way rather make it or break it by being myself, being true to myself. Like I'm big. Like I don't drink. I don't smoke.
Right.
Which I don't say that for any other reason besides the fact that like one, people think I'm drunk when I go out because I'm stupid.
Yeah.
But two, it's like it's not easy necessarily to be like, no, I'm good, especially when you surround yourself with different,
I hear you.
you're in different areas or whatever. But it's like, no, it's who I am.
Yeah. And honestly, and that's what, like, part of that failure I had as a player was like I came out of high school being the dude that was, super outspoken in my faith, super outspoken in my community, and like trying to be a leader in these ways, turning down every party after high school games and left and right. And then I go to college and I flip that script. And that's where I had my 2 to 3 years of real inner sadness and like just being disappointed with myself. And now it's not like, it's not like, I've definitely changed, we all change, and like I have different ideals and different morals and different ways of how I perceive what a good person looks like or how I want to try to be. But the moral of the story is just, it's hard to be happy if you're not being yourself.
Dude, something I think about, and I don't know if this is correct, politically correct or whatever, but I think we have to be okay being sad sometimes.
Yeah.
I think today's age, it's like, if you're sad, something's wrong. And then, like, you got to immediately fix it.
Yeah.
And it's like, or, if you're sad, then people, will turn to other vices to kind of get away from that for a little bit, whether that is drugs or alcohol or whatever the case may be. Well, then you wake up and it's still there. And so it's just a cycle. And it's like, it's sometimes okay to be upset or sad or like doubt yourself and have like those negative thoughts, I think.
Yeah.
Because then I think that allows you to truly understand like who you are, your own thought process, how you handle adversity, how you handle stuff. Can you talk yourself through
your
situations?
own personal growth? That's like a big part of it,
man.
for sure.
Yeah. How much do you think, like for me personally, and I'm sure it's different for everybody, like even just a few minutes of meditating each day has kind of helped with that. Just the way I look at thoughts. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah, I go on like 20, 30-minute walks. I used to have really bad anxiety.
Right.
I never told anyone this actually really at all. Podcast exclusive right here.
Oh.
Clip it up. But there was one time where I was super into training. I was like a senior in college.
Yeah.
So I was doing college, had a job on campus, and I was training every night. And so it's like, that's a lot, especially in college.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, chest pains and like all this stuff. And I was driving on my way to Lawrence, and I had to pull over because I basically passed out at the wheel. Like, I thought I was having a heart attack.
So it was like a panic attack.
It was a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it till later that that's like what it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still get like to the point where like I could feel like that kind of coming on. It's never got to the point where I'm like, ugh.
No,
but I
hear
have
you
to be
though.
like, all right, let's relax. And it's like, all right, how much pressure are you really putting on yourself? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, where does it stem from? And stuff like that. But I think it's it's all correlated to just being like meditation, like you said, just being own with your thoughts. Because, dude, we're so busy with like the computer, the phone, the podcast, everything that like the Apple Watch, that everything's always there's something.
I'm gonna be real. That's part of why I turned off my notifications. Like the anxiety of it. Like I literally just and I would notice like my wife, well-meaning, just I don't think she was being negative or passive aggressive, but I would literally like actively set my phone on the other side of the couch, like closer to her, further from me, so I'm not tempted to look at it. Yeah. And she would like look at me eventually, and this thing has not stopped going off. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't even made it yet. Yeah. So this is nerve-wracking. But always being turned on is just...
I mean, dude, some of my best moments was like a 2.5 hour plane ride when my phone's off.
Yeah.
And it's like I do my best like thinking at that point. There's no, at first, it's how addictive we are. Like you'll reach for it. Oh, I don't have service anyway.
It's so tough.
But then it's like, oh, this is actually nice. I now keep my phone on like do not disturb most times.
Me too.
My phone's on silent and I have vibration turned off. So if I don't want to feel it.
You have to actively be like.
Yes, and that's why I do that. And so it's like I'll pay attention to like on Sundays. I always get my
take Gunnar off my emergency contacts.
Yeah, but on Sunday mornings, I always get this usage notification on my phone.
Yeah.
And so I typically know when I'm going to get that anywhere from 10:30 to 11. And so I love it because that tells me what I need to cut down on.
When the usage thing first popped up on my phone, I was like, oh.
The analytics of it are insane though. Have you guys seen that though? Recently it tells you like when you pick up your phone, what's the first thing you tap on?
The first app you open.
Which one is the one that has the quickest response to? Like
I'm kidding. We talked about this. I'm a Hinge guy.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. But anyway, yeah, it's crazy what we resort to. And it's not even just us. It's just as a society.
I'll tell you.
As a whole.
Kind of wrapping things up because I know we got a college practice to go watch, a coach's clinic to go chop it up and do the thing.
Big presenter.
Shout out Luke Cooper.
Big time presenter.
25 minutes to figure out what I'm doing.
When you guys watch this in a month, make sure you make it down to BBC at 10 a.m. today.
Yeah.
BBC.
But it's kind of wrapping things up. Like I think it's super interesting as I think about how we've spent even just this conversation, because this is actually pretty indicative of just about any time I chop it up with you guys. We all study film. We all live in the gym, and so the basketball is at the end of the day, it's basketball, right? And we can definitely draw on each other, and we do ask each other. I need to do a better job of this, but we ask each other in our circle like for things that are directly related to X's and O's or skills or micro skills or what have you. But I think the thing that's gonna really be cool to see in a few years and like look back on this is like this is a sneak peek into how we really think about what we're doing as a whole. You're approaching it from the human side. You're approaching it from like, how am I impacting my community? How do I have to be my healthiest self to do that in the best way possible? And then like if I can achieve those things, what am I after? What is my journey? And making sure that's like a healthy thing. And I think that's whenever whenever it's guys like you that are in my circle or older coaches that, we all look up to and revere and respect that are doing that same thing and have been doing it for years. It goes untold a lot, but I think that's what really makes a difference in not just our game, but in the lives of those who we're coaching. You know what I mean? And so like for my part, I just appreciate having people around me that challenge me to continue doing that. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%. I mean, I think the inner circle matters because sometimes you get in your own head, with your beliefs on certain things, and it's almost like when you're arguing something, you can find any article that agrees with you. Yeah. It just depends on what you Google. It's the same thing with basketball. Sometimes you need other people to come with different philosophies, mindsets. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I think. Throwing this out there to kind of get your brain, moving. Like you said, the creativity starts going at that point, because you have your beliefs, you have your thoughts, you kind of get boxed in. When really you just need someone to kind of like open that box a little bit and show like what else maybe could be out there. Whether you agree or disagree, it's not really the point. The point is the fact that now you're challenging yourself to see other stuff.
Right.
If you do agree, if you do disagree, then that just further solidifies your beliefs.
Right.
But I think that's having an inner circle that you can kind of rely on for business and for basketball and for life is crucial.
And it's okay to disagree.
No, not now, not in 2019.
Especially.
I mean, I'm saying like within your inner circle, because there's been a couple of times that I've seen too, is like you'll have people that like that you've been close with for a while, and there might be one thing that is like you might disagree on that might be like super important, and then it just completely messes with the flow of that circle, that said circle. And it's like, I'm just throwing it out there like, guys, it's okay to disagree, and it's okay to be wrong sometimes, and sometimes you have to own up to that, and a lot of people are too stubborn to even do that. So yeah.
Well said. Guys, I'm going to leave you to it. Go on our merry way.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, though. And if you guys are listening to the podcast, appreciate you guys as well.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yes, sir.